All right, let me see here. Okay, you can heal family. Hi. It's been quite some time since I've sat here and hung out with you. So tonight's the night we're gonna just have a night where we read Ruth together. I know I said it a couple days ago on the other video. So here I am, and I'm thankful that you're gonna join me. If you come in later, just start the video on the replay and get the whole word. So I had a full weekend, graduation festivities. Ended up with horseback riding today, and it was really fun. Now my kids are still up roaming around, so you got to take it if you hear them in the background. So hi, my little Lisa. Hopefully, they won't be too loud. Actually, Bren is still roaming around outside in the neighborhood. They're like a gang out there. They're like little hoodlums running around. So I managed to get like a 30-minute nap today. Other than that, I've been busy. I got home and I cleaned up a little bit, and then got a text message. Was I coming up on the YouTube streets? It just tickled me so bad. It was so funny. But listen, yeah, she's out in the street. She is. Whew. So, yeah, I'm just sitting down. The weekend was really good. Some of you know that the girl's dad was in town, and there were some ups, and there were some downs, but there were mostly ups. But communication was a tad better. Still some things to work on, but overall, Brent had a great time. I had some good laughs too, and it was a fun week, and the party was fun, and everything was just really good. The graduation ceremony was really nice too. So I'm thankful for that. And if there's anything you want to know, just ask, because I'm an open book. When you're on this, I know, you know what, when you're on this live, anything goes for the most part, right? So if you have any questions, let me know. I think I'm just going to get started. We'll just take our time, and just like I do when I record these videos and upload them, I comment as I'm reading. So I'll just do the same thing like we always used to do, right? Now, I got these glasses on so I can see better. I actually took a nap one day last week and woke up and my glasses were broken. So I had to go get new glasses, and they changed the bifocal range. So hopefully when I get those, I can see better. Right now, I just have on these old ones. So I think that's that. I missed you doing talking times. Well, when I say I'm going to do, I spoke it out on that video, and I knew I had to get it in because I said I would. And look at you, you're faithful and you're here. So I'm glad about that. So yeah, get your jammies on and get all comfy cozy, and I'll just read to you. All right, so here we go. Ruth, chapter 1. Ruth's need to remain with Naomi. And this just touches me so. I love this book. In the days when the judges ruled in Israel, a man from Bethlehem in Judah left the country because of a severe famine. He took his wife and 2 sons and went to live in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife was Naomi. Their 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in the land of Judah. During their stay in Moab, Elimelech died, and Naomi was left with her 2 sons. So her husband died. The 2 sons married Moabite women. One married a woman named Orpah, and the other a woman named Ruth. But about 10 years later, both Mahlon and Chilion died, and this left Naomi alone without her husband or sons. That's sad, right? You got this whole family, you got a husband, you got sons, and all 3 of them died. That's sad. So Ruth's opportunity to leave Naomi is the next section. It says, verse 6, then Naomi heard in Moab that this candle is freaking me out. I feel like my hair's going to catch on fire. Okay, put it over there. Then Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. So Naomi and her daughters-in-law got ready to leave Moab to return to their homeland. With her two daughters-in-law, she set out from the place where she had been living, and they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. But on the way, Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, go back to your mothers' homes instead of coming with me, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. Okay, now listen, any of you listening who are married, notice that the daughters-in-laws were kind to their mother-in-law because it said she's thanking them for being kind to her. So, if some of you are struggling in that area, maybe try to be a little kinder this week, right? Take it a little bit at a time. I'll just let that sit right there. It says, may the Lord bless you with security of another marriage. Then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. So there was real love between the women, the daughters and the daughters-in-law. And also, too, if you want a spouse, and when you're vetting the man, look at the mother. And if there's problems before you get married, there'll probably still be problems after. So, kind of feel out that situation too, because you're marrying into the whole thing. Take a look at all that as well. Yeah, they do sound like they were close, Lisa. It does, because they all wept. Well, actually, it says they broke down and wept. So they were probably real close, real close. And then verse 10 says, no, they said, we want to go with you to your people. But Naomi replied, why should you go on with me? Can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands? So they really saw her as a mother. And, she's saying, I can't have any more kids for you to marry. No, my daughters, return to your parents' home, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible, and I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Oh, I never caught this. Now listen, she's talking about getting married before having children. She says, even if it were possible and I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? So this is what I did not do, and that was wait and get married and then have children. But Naomi here is like, you know what? You're going to wait for me to get married and have more kids. So get married first before you have kids. And if you didn't do that, I didn't either. God still loves you and your kids, but it's just so much easier not being a single parent. And, I kind of saw a glimpse of that again this weekend because when I was out Friday night shopping, my ex was with me. And it is just easier to have help. Like, everybody wants a little help, right? Okay. So then it says, would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? No, of course not, my daughters. Things are far more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord himself has caused me to suffer. Yeah, she's feeling pretty bad. And again they wept together, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth insisted on staying with Naomi. See, Naomi said to her, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods, and you should do the same. If you were one of the daughters, what would you have done? Would you have stayed like Ruth is going to choose that we're going to read, or would you go like Orpah did? Ruth chose to remain with Naomi. Verse 16. But Ruth replied, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. I will go wherever you go and live wherever you live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. That's so good. I will die where you die and will be buried there. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. So they were really close. So when Naomi saw that Ruth had made up her mind to go with her, she stopped urging her. Yeah, she wasn't going to try to persuade her. She made up her mind. That's so nice. Lisa said, that's a good question. If I was close to the mother-in-law, I probably would have stayed. Yeah, but we find out she made a really good choice because Ruth, you know, Jesus came from her, the line. So Orpah ducked out a little too soon. But that goes to show you, like, Ruth must have been a half glass kind of full gal, right? And Orpah was probably the glass is half empty person because Orpah probably wanted to get married again. She's like, oh, mom, I love you, but you're right. You can't have another son for me to marry. And she probably, liked having a husband and that kind of thing. So she left, and that's all right. We don't know. We don't hear anything else. She found a new one, but Ruth stayed. She was going to be faithful. That's deep when you think about it. It is. It really is. That's true dedication and commitment and love and just trust too. All right. So Ruth, the next section is called Ruth and Naomi returned to Bethlehem. Verse 19. So the two of them continued on their journey, and when they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was stirred by their arrival. Is it really Naomi? The women asked. Don't call me Naomi, she told them. Instead, call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me home empty. Why should you call me Naomi when the Lord has caused me to suffer and the Almighty has sent such tragedy? Hi, Gigi. She is in the depths of despair, Naomi. She left her homeland full, and she said she's going back empty. But when people die and people relationships end, it's painful and it hurts. So she was sad. I'll give her that. Oh gosh. Yeah. All right, that was chapter 1. Any other comments? It says here for the commentary, the Lord caused me. The theological premise undergirding the whole book is that there is but one God, and all experiences ultimately come from his hand. The Almighty has sent tragedy, so literally has caused evil upon me, using the strongest term for evil in the Hebrew language. The choice involves religion as well as family ties. So, yeah, I don't know why they use such a strong word. They're saying the strongest term for cause tragedy. I guess it did seem like a tragedy. And I was going to say, when you're a believer, there's going to be tragedy or things happen, but and Ruth was originally from Bethlehem, so she was a believer, but it's interesting because the daughter-in-laws are Moabites, right? Hold on. In the days when judges ruled, he took his wife and 2 sons and went to live in the country. Yeah, so they were from Bethlehem, Elimelech and Naomi, but they went to Moab, to a different country, then they went back. So, um, what did she say? Naomi meant pleasant and Mara meant bitter. Yeah, she left pleasant and came back better. So her husband dying was a tragedy, and that happens too when things happen to us. Some people blame the Lord and get angry with God for what's what's taking place in their life. I thank God I've never done that. And maybe that's just God showing me a little grace, but it does happen. And that's just how she was feeling at the end of chapter 1. So let's keep going, because Boaz meets Ruth in chapter 2. Now there was a wealthy and influential man in Bethlehem named Boaz, who was a relative of Naomi's husband Elimelech. Now, right, a wealthy and influential man, that's kind of a good catch, right? One day Ruth said to Naomi, "Let me go into the fields and gather leftover grain behind anyone who will let me do it." So Ruth said that to Naomi. And Naomi said, "All right, my daughter, go ahead." So Ruth went out to gather grain behind the harvesters. And as it happened, she found herself working in a field that belonged to Boaz, the relative of her father in law Elimelech. So the Lord is already working. She just happened to be in that field, right? You know how God does that? He just sets things up and you don't even realize he's setting things up. She just happened to be and pick that field, probably out of all the fields to glean in. She picked that one. And while she was there, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. "The Lord be with you," he said. While she was there, I just read that. "The Lord bless you," the harvesters replied. Then Boaz asked his foreman, "Who's that girl over there?" Now this is a good thing too for all the singles, because you just have to be minding your business, gleaning in the field, and um, if the man is interested, you're going to catch his eye. You don't have to bend over extra far and do the most, right? You just have to be doing what you're called to do. And he noticed her because he asked the foreman, "Hey, who's that over there?" Right? That's good. And the foreman replied, "She is the young woman from Moab who came back with Naomi. She asked me this morning if she could gather grain behind the harvesters. She has been hard at work ever since." Now that's good too. You know, you got to be doing something, out, be available out in the street. She was, but she was doing something purposeful. She wasn't just getting up in the morning, getting all cute and walking the streets looking for a man. She was out serving in her purpose. So we got to be available out in the street, like Lisa said, go to stores you would normally go to and stuff like that. Let's not go out of our way, but let's get out. Let's do that. And where am I? So she had been hard at work. So that's good. Like, be about your purpose, be busy doing what you're called to do, or at least trying to figure out what that is. And if you work from home, go sit in a cafe and do your work in little shops and places like that, you know. So that's real good. She's been hard at work ever since, except for a few minutes rest over there in the shelter. Okay, so she did stop to rest when she needed it. So that's good too. So the next section is Boaz protects Ruth. I like that part. I like that. And a vulnerable moment. I had said to my ex-husband this weekend, because as I keep saying, you guys know he was here and I'm trying to be accountable. And I had said to him, when in that marriage, there were, because of situations, I didn't feel protected and I didn't feel safe and provided for. So that's really 3 things that I would never not have, is not wanting to feel protected and provided for and safe in a marriage. So any singles listening, those are 3 good things to want. That's my 2 cents, right? Give the people ideas to be found. Yeah. All right. So Boaz in verse 8 went over to Ruth and said, "Listen, my daughter, stay right here with us when you gather grain. Don't go to any other fields." Oh, he didn't want anybody else checking her out. He was trying to keep her to himself. "Stay right behind the women working in my field. See which part of the field they're harvesting and then follow them. I have warned the young men not to bother you. Oh, so he's claiming, look, yeah, I warned the young men not to bother you. And when you're thirsty, help yourself to the water they have drawn from the well. So he's already taking care of her. That's so good. He's already making sure she has water and no one's going to mess with her. I love it. Verse 10, Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly. Why are you being so kind to me? She asked. I am only a foreigner. Yep, he's claiming her first. He sure is. And you know what that reminds me of? But if someone's interested in you, they're going to go out of their way and let you know, like, hey, I told Ruth, I told people not to bother you. I told the men to leave you alone. You got your water set up over here. That's good. You're going to know, and I'm sure Ruth felt like, and she even said it, why are you being so kind to me? Like, you're going to be able to tell, like, this person's giving me extra attention. He's been really nice to me. And he said, yes, I know, Boaz replied, but I also know about the love and kindness you have shown your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. I have heard how you left your father and mother and your own land to live here among complete strangers. So see, word got out about her. She was kind to the mother-in-law, and that got back to him, and that spoke something to him. And that goes to show, like, nowadays people can find out about you on social media. They can look at your TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff and see how you're living your life and what you're about. But he had a good report for her. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully. So now he's speaking good things about her, over her. He marked his territory. I want a musky man like that. It's coming. It's coming. Verse 14. At lunchtime, Boaz called to her, come over here and help yourself to some of our food. Oh, that's good, right? Now he's making sure she's fed. You can dip your bread in the wine if you like. So she sat with her harvesters, and Boaz gave her food more than she could eat. When Ruth went back to work again, Boaz ordered his young men, let her gather grain right among the sheaves without stopping her, and pull out some heads of barley from the bundles and drop them on purpose for her, and let her pick them up, and don't give her a hard time. So now he's making it really easy for her. Oh, that's so good. I think about, um, women who maybe get the opportunity to stay home because their husbands make it easier for them. They can focus on the kids, right? And they don't have to work. But he told the other men, just drop the bundles right there and let her pick them up. And don't give her a hard time about it either. I love it. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And if you're going to get a guy in your life should get easier, not harder. It shouldn't become more stressful. It should become easier if you got the right guy. If he's sitting in the lounge chair and you're up working and doing the most and he's doing nothing, just think twice about that. So the next section in the same chapter is Boaz provides for Ruth. So verse 17, so Ruth gathered barley there all day, and when she beat out the grain that evening, it came to about half a bushel. She carried it back into town and showed it to her mother-in-law. Ruth also gave her the food that was left over from her lunch. So much, Naomi explained. Where did you gather all this grain today? So now the mother-in-law is even noticing that she's got more. Where did you work? May the Lord bless the one who helped you. And that's another good point. Like when you do have the right person in your life, you're gonna be able to produce more because you have what? You have help, you have someone who's supporting you or looking out for you, right? So Ruth told her mother-in-law about the man in whose field she had worked. And she said, "The man I worked with today is named Boaz. May the Lord bless him," Naomi told her daughter-in-law. "He is showing his kindness to us as well as to your dead husband. That man is one of our closest relatives, one of our family redeemers." Then Ruth said, "What's more, Boaz even told me to come back and stay with his harvesters until the entire harvest is completed." So here goes Naomi. "This is wonderful," she exclaimed. "Do as he said. Stay with his workers right through the whole harvest. You will be safe there, unlike in other fields." So I think Naomi's catching on before Ruth even realized what was happening. Naomi's like, "Okay, this is great. Stay put. Just keep doing what you're doing." So in verse 23, so Ruth worked alongside the women in Boaz's fields and gathered grain with them until the end of the barley harvest. Then she worked with them through the wheat harvest too. But all the while, she lived with her mother-in-law. Okay. She wasn't moving in with anybody, right? She stayed with her mother-in-law. That's another good tip. Right? Are there any people out there who want to be old fashioned? You live at home, right? You maybe go to college or whatever and just do things in order. I think about that sometimes. I graduated from high school and what my life would have been like, if I did things in order. You go to school, then you work for a little while, you live by yourself, then you meet someone, then you get married, then you have children. Does anybody do that anymore? That sounds nice, right? So verse 23. So did I read this already? So Ruth worked alongside the women in Boaz's fields and gathered grain with them until the end of the barley harvest. Then she worked with them through the wheat harvest too, but all the while she lived with her mother-in-law. Yep. Yeah, she wasn't checking. Are you going to be on the thing?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Mom, who cares?
Okay. Hi. You must messing with me, don't you?
Yeah.
You're gonna say hi to the people. It's Auntie Lisa and Gigi was on here too for a little while.
Period.
Okay, look at that. Lisa smiles. I'm gonna do it in order. Yeah, Lisa, you have that. You so far so good. You graduated high school. You went to school. You're working. You're living at home. Keep going. Don't give in to the world and look what everybody else is doing.
Oh my God, what do you think I'm gonna do?
You're gonna do okay. All right, I was talking to Lisa, but
Oh.
I think I'm talking to you too.
I thought you were trying to give me another freaking lecture.
Okay.
Next step, degree.
Yes, it is. You can get it too. You can do it. Stop. Come on now. We're in the word here. All right, so we're starting chapter.
You're funny.
Oh, Liz said, "Congratulations, passing."
Oh, thanks, Liz.
Naomi seeks redemption from Ruth.
Tell them.
She's the most. Why do I have to tell
the story? Tell the story.
Would you like to come on and tell the story? You want me to embarrass my own self?
Okay, I'll tell the story. Okay, so this morning we were getting ready to go horseback riding. We're walking out of the door, like about to leave, like door locked, like about to leave in the car. And I go, "Mom, where's your hair?" This lady had no wig on, like no hair, ready to walk out of the door.
Yeah.
No hair at all.
She said, "Come on the camera, blessing."
I'm not wearing.
Okay, well, you get her hand, and that's the story. Okay.
No wig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, she's laughing like 100,000 emojis.
It's funny, like no wig on.
I would have laughed if you didn't
like,
say
like only wig yet.
no. I've been going through a lot this week, and y'all got me doing the little
Oh,
shit.
God.
I had Lisa. I did. I had no
hair.
I
Like,
would have just.
no hair. Bald.
And then what was I doing this morning? Oh, I was moisturizing.
You were moisturizing your hair. She was okay. Another story. This morning, she was moisturizing her hair with a little spray or something, and I was like, okay, through the cap, because she left her like wig cap on the night before and was moisturizing her hair through the wig cap, and she didn't even notice until she looked in the mirror. How do you do that?
I don't know, but there could be people who might watch this who've never watched my video before now.
Who cares?
Is a lot. They're getting a lot.
You know, as God said, come as you are. Either like it or don't.
Yeah, I was.
If you're not funny, you'll leave. I'm actually the funniest person ever, so.
Oh, I don't know. This smile is pretty funny.
I'm funnier. No one's funnier. It's that simple.
Okay, bye, blessing.
Blessing?
Yeah, I always do that. Okay, I'm gonna read it. No, come on, my.
Mom, watch.
No.
Mom, watch. Mom.
Oh my God. Well, do you guys miss that? Blessings, shenanigans. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness, is right. Okay. Chapter 3. Naomi seeks redemption for Ruth. One day, Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, it's time that I find a permanent home for you, so that you will be provided for." He missed us. So Boaz is a close relative of ours, and he's been very kind by letting you gather grain with your workers. Tonight he will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor. Now do as I tell you. Take a bath. Now, this part I never understood, why Naomi's like having her do all this. Because she says, take a bath. Put on perfume and dress in your nicest clothes. Then go to the threshing floor, but don't let Boaz see you until he has finished his meal. Be sure to notice where he lies down, then go and uncover his feet and lie down there. He will tell you what to do. Yeah, she washed and got on her perfume and her nice clothes. Now, this is interesting. The raggedy brownies we were dealing with, where Naomi tells her, okay, go uncover his feet, lay down there with him at his feet. He'll tell you what to do. The raggedy brownies in the past, they'll tell you what to do, all right, but it's not going to be anything like what Boaz is going to tell her. Oh, God. Lord have mercy. So Ruth obeys Naomi in the next section, verse 5. It says, "I'll do everything you say," Ruth replied. So she went down to the threshing floor that night and followed the instructions of her mother-in-law. After Boaz had finished his meal and was in good spirits, he lay down beside the heap of grain and went to sleep. Then Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Around midnight, Boaz suddenly woke up and turned over. He was surprised to find a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am your servant Ruth," she replied. "Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer." Spread the corner of the covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. So the commentary for spread over, this gesture, as well as Ruth's reference to a family redeemer, conveys her need for marriage protection. The covering, okay, spread this over me. So Ruth's request to be under his care beautifully fulfills Boaz's earlier prayer for her that she find refuge under God's wings. Let's go back to verse 12 in chapter 2, because remember I said Boaz spoke over her life. He said, "May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully." So this is when we need good people in our life, because Naomi recognized something, and she led Ruth the right way by saying, get the beautiful dress on and the perfume and wash and go lay at his feet. This is, you see where I'm going with this? Because Boaz has already kind of knew what was up, but it was like God brought the woman to him. Oh, I never saw that, because Ruth said, because remember, Boaz said, "Who are you?" Like, he was startled that she was there. "I'm your servant," she replied. "Spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer." And this beautifully fulfilled his earlier prayer that she find refuge under God's wing. Oh, that's good. And it said here in the commentary, Ruth's need for marriage protection. A godlike person. Oh, God, that's what we want. We want someone who knows the Lord, who can cover us and protect us. Yeah. And what is it in Ephesians? It's, what does it say? Like, you want someone to cover you in the washing of the water of the word, and how the man is supposed to love the Lord with all his heart. Let me turn there for a minute. Ephesians. I think it was 4. Is it Ephesians? I think it's 5. Yeah, let's look here in Ephesians chapter 5. Husbands, love your wives, and you husbands must love your wife with the same love Christ showed the church. He gave up his life for her to make her holy and clean, washed by baptism and God's word. He did this to present her to himself as a glorious church without a spot or wrinkle or any other blemish. So no matter what you've done before that man comes in, is a covering of all the things from our past, right? He's a good choice, and he washes you. No wrinkle, no spot, or no blemish. You're brand new. Instead, she will be holy and without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man is actually loving himself when he loves his wife. So if you have a man who doesn't love himself, how in the world is he going to love you? And I live this, and it's very true. It's very true. This is Ephesians chapter 6, starting with verse 25. No one hates his own body, but lovingly cares for it, just as Christ cares for his body, which is the church, and we are his body. So if you have a man who's not taking care of his body or himself, he is not capable of taking care of you. Trust me on that one. Trust me. If he doesn't love himself and he hates his own body, how in the world is he going to love you? You can't. He can't. He's got to do the work. Lord, he's got to do the work, right? So that's good. That's real good. So the next section, Boaz desires to redeem Ruth. And we're back in Ruth chapter 3, verse 10. The Lord bless you, my daughter, Boaz exclaimed. You are showing more family loyalty now than ever by not running after a younger man. whether rich or poor. Remember, we learned in the introduction that Boaz was 20 years older. And also, too, Ruth trusted her mother-in-law because when her mother-in-law said, get that dress and perfume on, she was like, I'm not laying down with that old man, whatever. She listened and she trusted. So that's interesting because we've been taught, by Tony Gaskins, 3 years is the cutoff. But in this case, Ruth had a seasoned man. So, but that's the Old Testament times too. So we got to take that into consideration. Um, okay, you're showing me. So Boaz is saying to her, you're showing more family loyalty now than ever by not running after a younger man, whether rich or poor. Now, don't worry about a thing, my daughter. I will do what is necessary, for everyone in town knows you are an honorable woman. So, see, there was no nonsense going on. He's like, I'm going to make sure everybody knows you're an honorable woman. So, two, these guys, if you're looking and dating, you need to make it very, very clear to them that you're an honorable woman and you're not going to be doing anything that's going to, discredit that. And, your body is a temple of God. So we want to present ourselves honorably, be an honorable woman. And it says, but there is one problem. While it is true that I am one of your family redeemers, there's another man who is more closely related to you than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning I will talk to him. So he's handling business. I will talk to him. If he is willing to redeem you, then let him marry you. But if he is not willing, then as surely as the Lord lives, I will marry you. And there's an exclamation mark after I will marry you. Now lie down here until morning. So Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until the morning. See, she wasn't all up next to him. She just stayed right at his feet until the morning. But she said she got up before it was light enough for people to recognize each other. Boaz said, no one know that a woman was here at the threshing floor. So he had protected her integrity. She stayed there until it was just light enough for her to safely leave. So he's a protector. He's a protector. Boaz also said to her, bring your cloak and spread it out. He measured out 6 scoops of barley into the cloak and helped her put it on her back. Then Boaz returned to the town. So she didn't even have to struggle trying to get that on her back. He even helped her with that. You know, yeah, you want a guy who's going to help. Verse 16. When Ruth went back to her mother-in-law Naomi, what happened, my daughter? Ruth told Naomi everything Boaz had done for her. And she added, he gave me these 6 scoops of barley and said, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Oh, see? So he's even nice to the mother-in-law. If the man you're dating is trying to keep you away from your parents or whatever, take the example here from Ruth and Naomi. Boaz is even having her bring something back. She wasn't sending her back empty-handed. Then Naomi said to her, just be patient, my daughter, until we hear what happens, meaning what this other closer family member is going to do. Well, I think Lisa, she laid at his feet because remember in chapter 2, verse 12, Boaz said to her, may the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully. So she laid at his feet under his covering because remember, Ruth had said, spread the corner of your covering over me, for you are my family redeemer. So I think if we research that covering is that protection. So I think Naomi sent her to lay at the feet to see if Boaz would have her and protect her and cover her. And he said, "Surely, as the Lord lives, I will marry you." So that's what I'm thinking. So it was kind of like, um, you know how you say the woman doesn't have to go looking for the man, she'll just be brought right to him and it's right there. We don't have to do much, right? But she did follow her mother-in-law's instructions. But she got good counsel. Naomi wasn't telling her to go to the club. She told her, go lay at his feet and do what he says. So that's good. And maybe that's a custom back then too, something like that. So we're on chapter 4, and then there's also a thing about live erratic marriage. So maybe it might explain in that. I'll read that too. All right, so chapter 4, Boaz marries Ruth. Chapter 4. So Boaz went to the town gate and took a seat there. And when the family redeemer he had mentioned came by, Boaz called out to him, "Come over here, friend. I want to talk to you." So they sat down together. Then Boaz called 10 leaders from the town and asked them to sit as a witness. Okay, so he wants to make sure everybody hears this answer. And Boaz said to the family redeemer, "You know Naomi, who came back from Moab? She is selling the land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. I felt that I should speak to you about it so that you can redeem it if you wish. If you want the land, then buy it here in the presence of these witnesses. But if you don't want it, let me know right away because I am next in line to redeem it after you." Now, this is interesting. He's talking about the land. He never mentioned the woman who came with the land. So, hey, I guess he just did just enough, right? He didn't give it all away. And the man replied, "All right, um, I'll redeem it." Then Boaz told him, "Of course, your purchase of the land from Naomi also requires that you marry Ruth, the Moabite widow. That way, she can have children who will carry on her husband's name and keep the land in the family." So then this man's like, "Hey, I can't redeem it." The family redeemer replied, "because this might endanger my own estate. You redeem the land, I cannot do it." So now Boaz is in the clear, and he had his 10 witnesses. And it says in those days, it was the custom in Israel for anyone transferring a right of purchase to remove a sandal and hand it to the other party. This publicly validated the transaction. So the other family redeemer drew off his sandal and said to Boaz, "You buy the land." Then Boaz said to the leaders and to the crowd standing around, "You are witnesses that today I have bought from Naomi all the property of Abimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon. And with the land I have required Ruth, the Moabite widow of Mahlon, to be my wife. This way she can have a son to carry on the family name of her dead husband and to inherit the family property here in his hometown. You are all witnesses today." So Ruth married up, right? Verse 11, then the leaders and all the people standing there replied, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is now coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, for whom all the nation of Israel descended. May you be great in Ephrathah, and famous in Bethlehem. And may the Lord give you descendants by this young woman who will be like those of our ancestors of Perez and the son of Tamar and Judah." So I guess that was the marriage ceremony, right? Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And Boaz made it very clear that he wanted her. She didn't have to beg him to marry her, beg him, please be with me, please be with me. He chose her. And he went after it. So that's good. Verse 13, Ruth bears a son named Obed. So Boaz married Ruth and took her home to live with him. When he slept with her, now see, they're married. So when he slept with her, because the marriage already took place, the Lord enabled her to become pregnant and she gave birth to a son. And the women of the town said to Naomi, Praise the Lord who has given you a family redeemer today. May he be famous in Israel. May this child restore your youth and care for you in your old age. For he is the son of your daughter in law who loves you so much and who has been better to you than 7 sons. So, what a good relationship. And thank God Ruth trusted Naomi when she gave her the instructions about the perfume and dress. So there was real trust and good relationship there. And then it says Naomi received a new family. Naomi took care of the baby and cared for him as if he were her own. The neighbor woman said, Now at last Naomi has a son again, and they named him Obed. He became the father of Jesse and the grandfather of David. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. See what happens when you do things in order in the right way and you're faithful. It's so beautiful. So that little baby that Ruth had, Naomi got to be a grandma and to help care for the baby. And that baby became the father of Jesse and the grandfather of David. And that's the same David we know, all the stories of David and Goliath and Jonathan. His grandfather was Ruth's son. That's so cute. So then the last section here in this book is the family line. So it says this is their family line beginning with their ancestor of Perez. So Perez was the father of Hezron, and Hezron was the father of Ram, and Ram was the father of Amminadab. Amminadab was the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon was the father of Salmon. Salmon was the father of Boaz that we just read about, and Boaz was the father of Obed, and Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David. And it says Boaz's marriage to Ruth and the birth of a son was a very real redemption for Naomi. The child would perpetuate the name of Ruth's former husband, Naomi's son Mahlon. Oh, it's such a good book. I love it too. I love the whole story. I just love the honor and the purity and the faithfulness and the trust and the protection, the provision, the safety, all that. It's so beautiful. And I think that's all those things is what a marriage should be. And so good. So good. So there's this little section. I can't really pronounce this word, Leviradic, Leviratic, marriage. So the Leviradic marriage, a family and inheritance custom among the Jewish people, is clearly demonstrated in the book of Ruth. A near kinsman of the widowed Ruth gave up his right to buy the family property and marry Ruth, but making it possible for Boaz to take her as his wife. The custom of Leviradic marriage specified that when an Israelite died without leaving a male heir, his nearest relative should marry the widow in order to continue the family name of the deceased brother. The term Liverat means husband's brother. Okay. If brothers on the father's side of the same family lived in the same area and one of them died childless, the widow was not to marry a stranger. Rather, the surviving brother was to take her as his wife. The firstborn son by her took the name of the deceased brother, continuing his name in the family registry. Such marriages were not strictly required under Jewish law, but were considered an act of love. If a brother-in-law did not wish to marry the widow, he was not forced to do so. Apparently, the next male relative in such cases then had the right to do so. This was the situation that led to the marriage of Boaz and Ruth in the book of Ruth. The first mention of the concept of Levitical marriage occurs in Genesis when Onan was called upon to marry his brother Er's wife, and that was in Genesis 38:8. I don't remember those names at all. Let me just look that up. 38:8. What does it say? Getting sippy. Bible pages are turning. 38:8 says, then Judah said to Er's brother Onan, "You must marry Tamar." Oh, I remember that was a sad story. As our law requires of the brother of a man who has died, her first son from you will be your brother's heir. Yeah, that story with Tamar was really sad. We read that in Genesis. All right. And where did I leave off? And then it says, Levirate marriage was the basis for the question asked of Jesus by the Sadducees in Matthew 22:23-28. The rabbis taught that in the next world, a widow who had been taken by her brother in law reverted to her first husband at the resurrection. And Jesus answered that when the dead rise, they won't be married. They will be like angels in heaven. In other words, the resurrected life will be a different type of life, one that cannot be judged in earthly terms. And this is so good. And at first, when I learned about this, I was like, oh, you're not going to, be married when you're in heaven, when you see your spouse sick or whatever. And that's why it's so important in a covenant marriage relationship to always have God first, not the husband, because ultimately, we're one with the Lord, and we should always put Him first. Because when you do that, then you can serve your husband better anyway. So always God first, right? Because when you get to heaven, you won't be married to Him. So let's serve the Lord with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And for those of us who aren't married who are listening, just my best advice is to make sure it's someone who provides for you and protects you. And what was the other thing I said? Provides for you, protects you, and makes you feel safe, right? And secure. And Ruth had all that. She had all that. And it started because she loved her mother-in-law, and she followed her back to Bethlehem. And she was blessed. She was blessed and cared for and protected. And that's good. Yep. God first. God first. So I thank you all for listening. And those of you who did not catch this tonight, then when you wake up in the morning, you'll see it. So that will be your 7 o'clock Bible time. Amen. And then on Tuesday morning, we'll do a 7 o'clock. I'll have a 7 o'clock, and we'll be looking at Samuel. We're in the book of Samuel, First Samuel. So you'll hear that introduction, and then we'll do more lives in the book of Samuel too on the weekend night. So either a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night, we'll go live and spend some time together reading too, because I do like it. Heaven is going to be so beautiful. I don't think we're going to be worried about being married. No, Jesus is all we're going to want. And the sounds in heaven and the singing and just being in His presence. Yep, He does want us to focus on Him. I learned a lot this weekend, you guys, about, being around someone I was married to and not being married. And there's so many things I didn't know then that I know now. And, I can just say that I thank God for my growth and things I saw and, just like, just thankful. But I had a really good time this weekend. And there was some hiccups and stuff, but they were needed because there were still things that needed to be revealed to me so that I could see. But overall, I had a good time. in the presence of my ex, and Brent had fun and the girls, so it was nice. And Blessing is officially out of high school now and going on to college, so that's good. That's real good. I need to find my daughter, make sure Brent is in the house. It's so late. I didn't hear her at all. So I need to figure out where she is. God help me. And that's it, you guys. So yeah, look for Tuesday morning, the introduction to Samuel. And that's that. All right, I'm sleepy. I'm going to worship and get to bed. I got a busy week ahead of me. I love you all. Always remember, true healing begins with self-love. Bye. God's love me lives on the inside of you. Bye. Love you. Thanks for being here and hanging out with me all night, Lisa. And I think Gigi popped on too for a minute. So that's good. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye.